Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another third-party unlicensed 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at none other than the Toys era, the Unstoppable. Now you may be thinking, Justin, what on earth is this? Well, this is a comic book styled version of their Juggernaut. Now we've previously seen their Juggernaut. They're using the exact same body here, and I'm pretty sure the same head sculpt as well, except they've given it a little bit more of a classic comic book flair. I couldn't be more excited to be getting this guy and comparing him to the original, and that will be happening throughout the course of this video. Now do bear in mind, it is third party and it is unlicensed. That means the company that made this, Toys Era, was a little bit naughty. They don't have the intellectual property rights to actually create this product, so bear that in mind when you are making your purchasing decisions. I purchased mine from toyswonderland.com. However, this is something, as I said, that I purchased. It's not a free product, and this is not a promotional video. This is a review on a product that I personally decided to add to my own collection. So do bear that in mind when you are deciding whether or not you should pick up this release. Also, if you are heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as brand new content goes live on the channel. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here of course we have the box art for the Unstoppable. I really do like that gold foil text down the bottom and this silhouetted image of Juggernaut in the glossy effect on the front. We do also have this caution style image on the side, and then all of the illegal information in an X format on the back. Now let's get this guy out here, because I have been incredibly excited ever since I got that previous version, and Toys Era decided, in their infinite wisdom, to reissue the body with a comic book style outfit. As I said, I've been really darn excited. And of course, here he is in person, and he's absolutely massive. I forgot how big this guy was in hand. When you get him in person, you're going to be absolutely over the moon. This guy has a presence. Now as you can see, he does come with two hands, so what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. And here we have all of the bits and pieces that come with Juggernaut. And yes, it is slim pickings. He literally just comes with hands. I would have liked an alternate head sculpt, maybe even a steel I-beam that he could have held and bent in his hands. That would have been fantastic. Nevertheless, we didn't get any of that. We just got the hands themselves. It works for me. It's a third-party release. Therefore, they had to be a little bit tighter with the purse strings and give us less stuff. Totally, I understand. We can get accessories somewhere else. I like the sculpt of the hands though, with all the vein work and the musculature and some shading here and there, plus a skin texture over the top, which makes them look even more realistic. You can also see these metal pieces that go over the top of the hands in the various sections. They do a good job of looking like metal with this uneven surface that looks like it's been forged. It's a really interesting design, and it is very comic book accurate. Now you do get some open hands, and of course, this being Juggernaut, he also gets some fists with the same exceptional level of detail and paint apps. What we are going to do now though is get Juggernaut himself out here and take a closer look. And here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And yeah, that's a comic book styled version of Juggernaut. This is the outfit that I imagine him wearing when he's not captured and imprisoned like he was in Deadpool 2. It's super comic book styled, but it also has a certain realism about it, and I think that's down to the body being the one that they used on the realistic Deadpool 2 version, plus the fact that the paint applications, especially on the skin tone, are really darn awesome. More on that in just a second. Now when the original version came out, people were hoping that Toys Era would reuse the body in the parts to make a comic book styled version here. I didn't think that was going to happen, but then again, Toys Era invested a lot into that custom body, so it makes sense that they went and decided to do this, and I personally am super happy that they did, now that we are getting even more classic comic book style X-Men characters such as the So-So Toys Gambit, as well as the sideshow versions of those characters. We are going to be able to build out the line, and stuff like this guy are going to be pretty darn invaluable just due to the size and presence they have on the shelf. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal. And yeah, he's an absolutely massive figure in hand. But I have to say, I may be enjoying this one slightly more than the original. More on that throughout the course of the video. Now first of all, let's talk about the helmet, because it is a big focal point. It's massive. This piece can be removed. It's a rubbery style appliance on the inside, so it's nicely padded. I personally will be leaving it on my figure, however. I think it nicely complements the helmet itself. Now the paint applications and the sculpt are pretty darn awesome. You can see this rough texture to kind of give it this beaten down forged metal look, and there is a face on the underside. You can't remove the helmet, it's fixed to the face itself, but still, that works perfectly fine for me. What doesn't work though is, as you can see, the helmet is a little bit crooked, and the face itself can't be adjusted. It's one connected item. I might see if I can use some heat and get up in there and mess around with it, but for now, the face on mine is crooked and doesn't match up with the lines, or the holes I should say, on the helmet. A little bit frustrating. Fingers crossed yours doesn't have that issue. Now let's talk about the arms. These are sculpted beautifully. You can see vein work and shading. There is a texture to the skin to make it look like, well, real skin. You can also see exposed joints. Let's be honest, they could have done a rubber overlay, but they didn't do it with the first one, and they're not doing it here either. I prefer this for a big beefy boy. If you're covering this in synthetic material like rubber or, I don't know, silicone, it will crack and degrade over time. This runs no risk of that. In my opinion, once you have the arms bent, it kind of doesn't really matter anyway. You can also see the added bands along these sections here, all the way down to the hands. They look really good. They nicely match the helmet. They've got this forged look about them with all the cracks and sort of crevices and damage, like they've been beaten down, and they sort of should be, because it's Juggernaut. He's been running through buildings and people, so that definitely makes sense. I love the color. As I said, it perfectly matches with the helmet. Now the bodysuit. This thing is pretty darn awesome. Really straightforward in its construction. It's an all fabric piece, so you shouldn't have to worry about creasing or damage over time, which once again is a good thing on a big figure such as this. And you can see a little bit of airbrushing in the crevices just to bring out the nice detail of the seams. Now coming down to the pants and the belt. The belt is a pleathery style piece, but it's really sturdy. You can also see the rivets are a nice callback to up the top here on the collar. It's a really nice consistent design and very comic book accurate. Now coming down to the pants, these once again are a fabric piece. No worries about creasing whatsoever. They are a little bit baggy to afford some articulation for the larger honkin' legs. And finally, last but not least, he does have a split cut boot design on these very retro classic style boots. I love the fold over the top, very comic book accurate, and I do like the big massive feet down the bottom. A nice stable base for a very big boy. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, I wanted to keep this relatively simple. You are going to see a bunch of comparisons in short succession in this one clip. Technically, we've already seen these comparisons anyway with the yellow jumpsuit version of Juggernaut. It's exactly the same size, his body is identical underneath, and so is the head sculpt, so it makes perfect sense to do it this way. But nevertheless, as you can see, he's the same as the other version. He's also significantly taller than the Steel, he's also taller than the Deadpool figure, as well as Cable. And also the Hulk. He is significantly bigger than pretty much all of those big boys, as well as just regular 1/6 scale figures. Pretty darn impressive considering this is a third-party unlicensed company. They've poured a lot of money, as well as blood, sweat and tears I'm sure, into the engineering on this piece. And I personally am super happy that Toys R Us decided to take the plunge and get this done. I can't imagine that the previous version, or even this version, sold very well, so they were doing it on pretty slim margins here. But nevertheless, they decided to get it done. You'll have to let me know what you think of the size comparison between this guy and all the other figures down in the comments below. Just going over articulation on Juggernaut. Now bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now starting off with the big honkin' noggin itself, it's one fixed connected piece. You can remove this ring if that's something you'd like to do, but I personally will be leaving it on there. Now unfortunately, when you do move it forward, you do gap up the back, but you can always futz with this piece to get it to lay just right. Now the arms themselves go out pretty much the full way, and then the same thing going forward. They're a separate entity pegged into the body, which in my opinion is the best way to do it. You do have a single bend at the elbow, which incorporates a swivel, and of course a usual ball joint style wrist peg. Now as far as I'm aware, this entire torso is one fixed solid plastic piece. I can't really get it to move. However, there is a waist joint down below that affords a little bit of crunch, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs themselves are fairly restricted, only going forward to about there, going out to about there. There is a swivel at the thigh, a single bend at the knee, and of course down here at the foot, you do have a split cut boot design which incorporates a ball joint. Just wrapping up on the Toys era, the Unstoppable, aka a comic book version of Juggernaut. I, for one, never thought I'd see anything like this in my collecting career, but here he is, and yeah, Toys era were the ones to get this done. I'm super impressed that this guy even exists, let alone in the quality that Toys era have managed to pump out here. Now, we shouldn't really be all that surprised, granted, because the first version was just that darn good. This one is equally as impressive in my opinion, if not more so. I loved the body originally, and I love it here too. The paint applications on the arms and on the head sculpt, even though you can't really see much of it, granted, are pretty darn fantastic. Then when you add in all that comic book style goodness to add him alongside your growing comic book style X-Men collection, you can't really go wrong here. And honestly, for a guy as big as he is, and I'm pretty sure it's a limited run, the price isn't all that expensive. Quite surprising considering, as I said, he is a massive boy. Now, as I said at the intro, I picked up mine from toyswonderland.com, but you do have to bear in mind, he is third party and he is unlicensed. That means the company Toys Era, who made this guy, doesn't have the correct rights to actually produce this release. So keep that in mind when you are making your purchasing decisions. Also, while you are down in the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.